Good evening, guys. Welcome to the Saturday night edition of Pontificating with Pete on Revolutionary Change. Hope you guys are all doing well. It's great to see everybody already in the chat. We're just getting underway here. Hope you're all having a great start to the weekend. Obviously, there is a hell of a lot of stuff to cover. And we are going to get into several stories this evening. But one of the things about life is that sometimes things happen, and whether you consider that person a friend, whether you have had interactions with them before, whether on a positive or neutral or even a negative light, if you would, as I would put it, I do want to start tonight in what I consider to be an important place, a place that I think is important to acknowledge for a couple of reasons. For those of you who may not know, or maybe you do, fellow podcaster, content creator, and somebody who has been a fixture in this space for many, many years, Jimmy Dore, and his wife, Stef Zamarono, who I have actually spent time with personally. They were nearly in a fatal plane crash yesterday in California. And when these types of things happen, they really tend to put life in perspective. And while constantly I try to rally, as Jen does as well, as many people to the cause, the right cause, as possible in these tough moments, especially in lieu of the genocide, which Jimmy has been spot on with, to his credit, from day one. He's done an excellent job as far as that goes. Jimmy is very rough around the edges. He's not everybody's cup of tea. He has thrown people under the bus. He has put people in very uncompromising positions when it comes to where they stand politically, even if it's not 100% on board with where they necessarily stand. And unfortunately, Jimmy has, when I say he's thrown people under the bus, I'm specifically talking about Jen and I. But with that said, I don't harbor ill will towards him. I never did. I didn't particularly like his shtick at times. I don't like the way he treated some of my friends. But a lot of what he does talk about has relevance. And so I want people to understand that even if you have disagreements with people, life can come get you very quickly. And so this was a clip that was dropped on social media by Jimmy and Stef yesterday in lieu of their near fatal collision in air on their way from Burbank, California to Las Vegas.
Just a few minutes ago, we ended up having crazy turbulence on this flight. Like, Jimmy, have you ever had that experience before that much?
It turns out not turbulence. It was the pilot taking an aggressive move because there was another plane coming at us. That's what it was. There's a collision avoidance.
We're driving home.
I send my best to Jimmy and Stef. On a personal level, Stef is a sweetheart. I just have to put that out there. She's a very sweet lady. I'm sure dealing with Jimmy is a handful. But, Jimmy's been through a lot. Jimmy's been vaccine injured. He's had severe back problems. And I think a lot of that tends to spill over into how he conducts himself at times. And it is unfortunate that that is the case. But I also believe that Jimmy has a good heart. He is trying to do right. And he feels that when people are not completely black and white when it comes to all of the political bullshit that we deal with on a regular basis, he gets very sensitive about it. And I understand that. But he was somebody who Jen and I, despite our differences, were on board with 100% when he was organizing the Force the Vote initiative about 4 years ago. And the thing that I noticed at the time was that there were people that were not agreeing to go forward with this attempt to force the Democratic Party to vote on single-payer health care. Bring it to the floor, have a vote in lieu of voting for Nancy Pelosi to be Speaker. And they had enough votes to force the vote. And the leader of that so-called squad was AOC. And she chose, as she has displayed over the past several years, that her career is more important than the people. And at the time, Jimmy was very adamant that this is the way to go. And there were tons of people within that Democratic Party, independent media establishment that initially were on board with it. And then they got the memo and they decided, yeah, we're not on board with this anymore. And so while everyone was like, well, I don't like Jimmy anyway, so who cares? My attitude was, I've actually dealt with Jimmy on a personal level. And there were times that he was good to me and there were times that he wasn't, and especially to Jen. And you know what? I would still put those differences aside if it meant fighting on the front lines of an issue that absolutely mattered. I think we can all agree that on the international level, the issue of Israel-Palestine, more specifically the genocide in Gaza, is the top priority of today. If we were to, minus the Epstein files, acknowledge what is the top domestic policy that I think most of us would agree with, it would be single-payer healthcare. That is the issue of our time. That is the issue that brings as many people across all political spectrums together that agree with what would be considered technically a left policy, if you will. And so Jimmy was at the forefront of pushing this policy. And I agreed with him. And so did Jen. And we were discussing it at length on the podcast. And we noticed that there were other content creators that, because they didn't like Jimmy, that would be one. And because it was going against the Democratic Party, that would be two. And so protecting the establishment was more important than actually making a stand. And at that moment, you found out who was really on board with the issue that mattered. And the same is true when it came to what has been going on over the past couple of years as it pertains to Gaza. Jimmy, again, like I said, he's rough around the edges, but he came through when he absolutely needed to, and he has been front and center correct on the issue of Israel-Palestine since jump. And that must be acknowledged. I bring this up because if we had gotten a message today that Jimmy Dore and Stef Zamarono were killed in an on-air collision, which they were pretty close to that happening, I can only imagine how people would be talking about it today, or how they would be addressing Jimmy if in fact that had happened. My understanding, based on what I've read, and I'm not just talking about what is being said on social media, I'm talking about actual FAA report, which friend of the show, Hard Lens Media, Kit Cabello, was discussing earlier today. If you look at the flight pattern from the FAA, they had to basically do a nosedive to avoid hitting this other plane. And because they did that, several people were thrown out of their seats. Several people needed medical attention. Several people, I believe, even needed to go to the hospital. This is serious. And I hope that people have perspective about the disagreements that we have in politics and the type of people we disagree with. It is crucial that when we have certain issues that we agree on, that we acknowledge those that are doing the work that we're trying to do as well, even if we don't get along or even disagree outright on a number of other things. And so I bring this up because much as Jimmy and Stef just went through their near-death air experience, I actually had one myself, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up this evening. So we go back probably a decade, I would say, give or take. I was flying to South Florida from New Jersey, and the airport that I was designated to fly into was Fort Lauderdale. And instead, because there was a bad storm over South Florida, the plane actually diverted into West Palm Beach, about 50 miles away from Fort Lauderdale. And so when we landed, the pilot gave us an opportunity, if you will, to get off the plane. Do you want to get off here, or do you want to wait until the storm clears, and then we will proceed to Fort Lauderdale? Well, considering my situation and how I was going to be getting home, I decided to stay on the plane. Well, when the plane took off again, needless to say, it was not fun. In fact, it was a potentially near-death experience for me. So the plane ended up flying somehow directly into the storm. And when I say that we hit air pockets and that cabin pressure went through the roof, people were screaming. People were throwing up in the little bags. I'll never forget that one. And the only reason that I maintained a level head is because I was sitting next to this young kid who was allowing me to play some type of a handheld game. I don't remember if it was Nintendo, Switch or whatever it was, but I just remember that I was so intensely focused on what I was doing that I didn't even think about what was going on around me. Up and down, and feeling like something really bad was going to happen. And when we touched down, I just remember thinking how grateful I was that I was able to get through this. Because this is one of the biggest reasons I think people have a fear of flying, is because you're not in control. You are putting your life in somebody else's hands. And that's a big deal. And so I remember that moment. I was on a flight not too long ago that had a midair problem, and we had to divert back to the airport. We were in the air for about 30 minutes, but that's how serious it was. They felt, yeah, we have to divert. We've got a. They said it was I don't remember the exact issue that they said. It had something to do with the fuel injection system, but I don't remember the specific reason. What I do remember is the people that get on the plane freaking out, and understandably so. So these types of moments, I believe, put a lot of things in perspective, as they should. So I'm glad to hear that Jimmy and Stef are okay. And I think we, from time to time, need these moments of reflection to recognize that life is very, very fleeting. You're here 1 minute, you could be gone the next. And so by fate, if you will, they're safe, but it could have been a real disaster. And thankfully it wasn't. So I hope you're all doing well this evening. We've got 140 people already in the live stream, which is great. Make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already, if you are new here. Hey, Dan, that's Jen's line. No one gets out alive. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't enjoy our time while we're here. And yes, I have heard this time and again, this is a good reason, Travers, why I always recommend taking JetBlue. JetBlue is Airbus. I can't speak for all the other airlines, but yes, I have been told that does play a role, be it as it may. And of course, if you haven't shared the stream, please make sure that you do. Obviously, a lot is going on right now, and there are many stories that we could cover. But I don't want us to forget that as important as what we're trying to do right now, and yes, the Handala Freedom Flotilla has been seized by the IDF. Shocker. We all knew that was going to happen. The bigger story here is the fact that right now it would appear that we are seeing what is considered an untenable political position, and that is not acknowledging the genocide in Gaza through mass starvation, which we all know is happening. And the reason we know it's no longer tenable is because we have the likes of Amy Klobuchar, who is as knee-deep within the Zionist movement and AIPAC as you could possibly be, among others, saying that we have to get food into Gaza. But I will tell you, when Mr. Democratic Party sycophant himself, Joe Scarborough, starts talking like this, you know you've lost the plot, because they can't protect it anymore. And it's not like they've had an attack of conscience. It's not like they care about what's happening to these innocent children, the hundreds of thousands that are now going to be dead as a result of starvation. It's because it's not working for them politically. That's it. And here's what Scarborough had to say.
Crossfire, Joe. I mean, these pictures that are coming out of Gaza at the moment are just heartbreaking. And again, we're seeing pictures of civilians and children and families lining up to try and get food and then getting caught by Israeli fire.
Well, and Caddy, the death, the violence against these children, against these civilians who are starving and trying to get food for their family. They go to relief sites and either bombs are dropped or they're shot. And of course, also, it seems so many supporters of Israel tried to put this down as propaganda from Hamas. But we've had the International Red Cross on twice talking about the numbers of civilians that are being slaughtered while they're going there and trying to get food relief in a region that's been on the precipice of famine now for a year.
And what have you been saying for the past year about it? What were you saying about it when Biden and Harris were in the White House? Nothing. You didn't say anything. In fact, you phrased it as, yeah, it's complicated, but it'll be a hell of a lot worse if Trump gets in there. I beg to differ. I actually think the fact that Trump is in there is why this is ultimately going to come to an end, because you can't hide this shit. This is as bad as it gets when this guy starts talking about it. He must have got a memo of some kind. He wouldn't be talking about it if that wasn't the case. There is no way that MSDNC, especially Morning Joe, which is their highest rated program when Rachel Maddow is not on TV, that they're talking about this. Of course they're talking about it now, because it's killing them politically. That's the only reason. They don't give a damn. Not one iota. That's the only reason.
And you have UN convoys being attacked by Israel, trying to bring food in. It really is. It is a despicable, a deplorable, pick the word, situation that continues even a year. Mm-hmm. Even a year after so many people in the Israeli military and Israeli intelligence services said there are no more military aims in Gaza that we can achieve. We need to move to the next phase. And Netanyahu just refuses to do it. Let's bring in right now contributing editor for the Financial Times, Kim Gatash. She is also a contributing writer at The Atlantic. Kim, much to talk to you about. I first want to talk about this story that I just don't think is being picked up enough in the U.S. press. The Times has done a great job over the past 2-3 days putting...
The past 2 or 3 days? You mean the New York Times that had Brett Stevens, that cuck pussy genocidal psychopath, put out an article saying, no, there is no genocide in Gaza? That New York Times, man, they really can't get their story straight if they tried. You know, I think the disposition of this lady pretty much sums it up. She's like, yeah, what do you want to tell me now, Joe? You want to tell me now you care about these kids? How much you really care? I mean, this should be a meme as far as I'm concerned.
On the front page, talking about all of the Palestinians who have nothing to do with Hamas, all of these Palestinian children who are being slaughtered, their families, their grandparents being slaughtered as they try to get enough food to keep their family alive. Since Israel doesn't allow journalists in a lot of these areas, these relief areas,
he doesn't care. And I don't expect anybody to, as much as I, would say that we have to change our course right now, and we do, but there is no question that the only reason why Scarborough or anybody else is saying this is because the Democratic Party is getting absolutely destroyed. And we know that they're getting destroyed. I believe, Colin, I had sent you a post regarding the current fundraising situation amongst the GOP and the Democrats. If you don't have that, I will grab it and send it over real quick. But in many ways, I think that this is reflective in why things are going as badly as they are going. They're going badly because they're not able to raise any money. I mean, we've been saying that the Dems are basically dead. That is the reality of what's going on now. If you've only been able to raise, I don't know if you have that or not. And I also want to show this image. Keep in mind, guys, remember Amy Klobuchar tried to come out the other day and talk about the fact that she now all of a sudden has an attack of conscience regarding Gaza. Well, never forget that this is her with Netanyahu and the entire bipartisan brigade of AIPAC-funded and owned senators, including Cory Booker in the corner trying to hide his ass because he thinks that people will forget that. But look at Teddy Cruz right in the front, all nice and happy with those 3-inch lift heels that he's wearing. He's a short guy, in case you didn't know. This is exactly why right now I don't put as much stock into the fundraising aspect of politics. The argument has always been that you really just need a certain amount of capital to be viable. But what I will say is that it's one thing if you are the party out of power and you're coming up on that first year where you're trying to gain momentum, if you will. And we all know the political landscape in this country is changing. It's changing every day. But this is a clear sign that the Democratic Party brand is in deep shit. And I mean deep shit. And Colin, if you want to cue that one up. The Republican Party has almost 5.5 times more cash on hand than the DNC at this point of the year. Trump has been in power for approximately 6 months. You would think at the backdrop of acknowledgement of the genocide in Gaza, the Epstein files, that big, beautiful bill that I passed, that the Democrats would not have such a hard time raising capital right now. But my God, do they ever? I'm seeing all of those stupid sycophants on social media vote blue no matter who, and progressives are stupid, and MAGA is retarded, and all that good shit. Give us money. How come you're not donating? The Democrats are never going to win if you don't give them money. I couldn't be happier than to see this. This goes to show you that if you can't garner any momentum with all that Trump is doing right now, you are dead on arrival. And even though I was listening to our friends over at Dude Dissonance talk about how you have these young up-and-comers that are salivating at the prospect of taking over the Democratic Party, or how they're so desperate to get the dinosaurs out of the party, and then all of a sudden, if they get in there, things are going to get better. Why would you think that it would? Who do you think funds the party? The party has completely buried itself. It's not going to change. There isn't going to be this great aha moment amongst the new generation that is now going to stop taking all of the money from Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and the military-industrial complex. And let's not forget the Israel lobby. Until they're dead and buried, capital will continue to flow directly into the party, and they will continue to do as they're doing. The only problem is the Democrats are basically dead. And if you're this far behind on fundraising in what is historically, with rare exception, always considered the best opportunity to raise capital, when you are the party out of power in that first off-year midterm election, and this is what you've raised, you're worse than dead. You should just fold up your tents already. And anybody who is still pretending that you can resuscitate this party, you're out of your mind. It can't be done. And when everybody is bitching and complaining about the Texas GOP gerrymandering their state, let me assure you, there is no support for the Democratic Party in the state of Texas outside of the major cities. None. And I've been to Texas quite a few times over the past couple of years. You are lucky if there is any support for that party in Austin, San Antonio, parts of Houston, parts of Dallas, maybe the border, and El Paso. And that's it. So when they come out and they say, oh my God, look at how they're gerrymandering. You don't appeal to anybody, so who the hell cares? You don't do anything to change your fortunes. As I've mentioned, this doesn't change the fact that your party doesn't support the most obvious solution to our health crisis in the United States, which is a single-payer system. You don't support it because you're funded by the very entities that want no part of it, because it cuts into their profits. I know a person in South Florida who basically is an export importer like George Costanza, no pun intended, but basically is making money hand over fist by importing and exporting certain types of pharmaceutical drugs because of our get-rich-quick scheme system. You think that person who's making millions of dollars would ever allow a single-payer system to thrive in this country? They'd be out of business. How could they ever make money like that again? We would have a fair system where people would not go broke trying to stay alive. They don't support labor power. They support unions that do what they're told, like voting against their best interests, like they did with Wasserman Schultz against Jen. That they care about. Do they care about labor rights, negotiating for co-ops, negotiating for a living wage, negotiating for paid sick leave? And that's not happening. It's a farce. It's been that way for a long time, and it will stay that way. Save and delay. So as I've said before, do not resuscitate, do not save. This is a clear sign that the Democrats are as dead as a doornail, and it's not going to change. And it shouldn't. And if you're stupid enough to give them your money, light it on fire. I could show you text messages out the wazoo that never stop. Every day, all day. Give us money. Help us here. Help us there. AOC wants money. Maxwell Frost wants money. Chuck Schumer wants money. Even Hakeem Jeffries wants money. And they're not going to get it. And they never should again. But I will say this. The only person who has earned any type of grace, and I mean any, because there's not a lot to go around, I don't know who's at the controls right now, but clearly somebody's having a little fun back there. Anyway, the only person who's worth even an ounce of support in the Democratic Party right now, even though I don't think he really needs to be in it, he'll get to the point if he wins that he will be above the party. The party will be in his image, especially in New York City. But Zohran Mamdani is the only person who deserves an ounce of grace. And I'm not saying that because he's the mayoral nominee in the Democratic Party for mayor of New York City. I'm saying that because his campaign has completely flipped the script on the Israel lobby in the United States. And for that, he deserves our grace. This is a clip that was put together, I believe, by Jamaal Bowman, to give credit where credit's due. This is a very good clip that was taken the other night. I believe there was a concert earlier this week in New York City with Wu-Tang Clan. Killer Mike was there. Some good people who are talking about real issues that matter. So enjoy this. I think it says a lot. And I'm proud to say that, Zohran's doing a good job. He's not doing a perfect job, but at least somebody out there is fighting for a good cause, and he's doing a pretty good job as of right now.
Brother Zohran, what's going on, man? This is Jamaal Bowman. Tonight I have an extra ticket to the Wu-Tang Clan concert in Madison Square Garden. Come through, clear your schedule, and join me at the Garden.
How's it going? See you guys. Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Thank you for making this happen.
Of course, man. Absolutely. They hit me up. I was like, yo, can I bring my man? And like, absolutely.
You already know how I feel about hip-hop and its potential to build enormous political power. No one has the pulse of our communities in the way hip-hop always has.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man.
Got my support.
Thank you.
I'm hoping for you.
Thank you.
You are part of that continuum too, my brother, as you're bringing new energy and ideas and authenticity and humanity into the political.
Look, we have our disagreements with Jamaal Bowman. Talked about that at length before. We certainly were very adamant about how he mistreated Breonna Joy Gray and the silliness that he espoused regarding why force the vote never happened, among other things. With that said, I appreciate him helping Zohran. And that does matter. Because Zohran is going to need all the help he can get, because Cuomo is going to get all the help that he can get from the establishment. And now the establishment is taking Zohran very seriously. But you can see, just by attending this event, how the people feel about potentially their next mayor. This is just not common in politics. In fact, we've gotten to a point today where people hate their politicians, as they should. There really isn't much to like. But Zohran is doing his part to try to buck that trend. And that matters. In such a very dark time, it is nice to see that there's at least one person out there doing it right. And the beautiful thing about it is that I don't really think there's a scenario that could be any better than the one that he's in right now. He's an Indian, Muslim, socialist nominee for the biggest executive job in the United States that isn't governor or president. That's a pretty big deal. And it sets a hell of a lot of precedent should he pull it off.
System.
It's great to meet you. I've been a big fan for a long time.
I'd love for us to get a conversation.
I'd love to. Oh, thank you.
We're
Really
rooting
appreciate
for
it.
you, man.
Thank you.
It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the city. I was born and raised here all my life.
It means a lot to us.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Hey, it's a real pleasure to meet you. Truly.
We got you, bro.
Thank you.
You in the right hand. Better than all states. Better than all states.
Oh man, good
How's
to
it
meet
going?
you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming.
It's a real pleasure.
Wow.
It's a real pleasure.
At the Wu-Tang show. Like, I got friends, they lived in Brownsville in the 60s.
Yeah.
But they was able to move out to Long Island.
Yeah.
Right? And now life is good. Then you got the people in my generation, like my aunts and them, we got in Brownsville, we got stuck.
Yeah.
So we probably like, let us out.
Yeah.
But how do you balance that?
I mean, I think a big part of it is to make Brownsville a place that you don't have to leave to have that same life. You know, there are too many people for whom stability, space, raising a family, you can only do it outside of New York City. The whole campaign that we ran on is about how do we make the most expensive city in the United States of America affordable.
Okay, I mean, I like that. That's a pretty good answer.
So he's saying the right things, and he's saying the right things to people that could actually influence communities to come out to vote in November that may otherwise not care as much. And that is obviously the power of what he's doing right now. I don't blame him. I think it's the right strategy. But even still, you could see that the crowd, when they saw him, acknowledged him, they appreciated him, and that does matter. I know who ODB is. And obviously, Killer Mike did a hell of a job for Bernie when he ran, especially the first time. And so there is power in these communities, but also pay attention to the members of the hip hop community who claim to be fighting for the least of these and those that don't. So remember that RZA's there, Jadakiss is there, Killer Mike is there. You know, they're out there in support of Zohran, where they could just as easily give in to the corporate infrastructure. And they've chosen not to. And that is very important, because we all know a lot of them go the way of Diddy, if you will. These conversations are vital. I think his disposition is one that I actually appreciate. He is appreciative of who he's with, but he's also not intimidated either. And that, to me, is the sign of a good leader who understands that this is not about him, but he also understands the brevity of what he holds in his hands should he be able to grab the levers of power in the next few months.
If you could make Brownsville a place where you want to live versus a place like, get the fuck out here, excuse my language.
Exactly.
And they can afford it,
Yeah.
and they get the quality of life.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a mission.
So Wu-Tang Financial.
Like you and the movement you are building, hip-hop will continue to change the world. So listen, brother, let's make this happen. Call me back. Peace and love.
As I said, I don't blame Jamaal for being chummy with Zohran. He understands that he still holds influence. And the fact of the matter is, you know, when you really get down to it, the congressional district that Jamaal was attempting to win election in again, although there was the redistricting, he did exceptionally well in the Bronx. He got destroyed in Westchester, which is where Mr. Cross-Eye ended up winning his election. And the 25 million from the Israel lobby helped a lot too. But what I will also say, and this is important to remember, if he has won or had that much of a vote share in the Bronx, and he's out there advocating to get Zohran elected, certainly he has some pull with those voters that might very well come out and support him. But make no mistake, and this has always been the biggest issue that I think a lot of people have with politics, and it's fair to say that I don't disagree, but there is the distinct possibility that Jamaal is out there in support of Zohran and that there are strings attached. If he's out there supporting him to become the next mayor, who's to say during the next election go-around cycle that he's not going to be looking for Zohran to support him if he chooses to, let's say, primary Richie Torres, which is certainly a possibility. I think that that is something that, we have to keep in mind. I think Jamaal definitely wants to be in politics. That's obvious. And it will be interesting to see if Zohran is able to win, what he ultimately chooses to do. Maybe he wants to be in Congress again. I would say that that's the most likely situation. And it's happened before. I mean, there are congressional representatives that have won office, lost, ran again, was able to get back in again. And this would be one of those situations where he would be able to have at least a reasonable chance of getting back into politics if Zohran was able to win. And that political infrastructure in New York City automatically changes. So for that whole corporate bought contingency of politicians throughout the city, they will all be put on notice if Zohran is able to win. And that is also one of the biggest fears that they have. Not just the power of the Israel lobby being shattered into 1,000 pieces, like the CIA should be. But therein lies the rub. It is politics. And Zohran is playing that. So that's what you have to remember. Strange bedfellows, but there are plenty worse people than Jamaal Bowman.
All right, now we're done with the pictures. I want to talk some politics.
No cameras.
Killer Mike is the real deal. So if he says that he wants to talk one-on-one with Zohran, you got to listen. It's important. I wish him well. I do. I think we can understand the reasoning behind that thought process. And I say that because one of the biggest reasons that we constantly talk about, if you're going to run in the Democratic Party, understand what you're getting yourself into. Understand who are your allies, there's not many, and who your enemies are, there's plenty. And this goes back many years. And this is where we transition into Israel. So it should come as no surprise that there are many stories coming out now about the clandestine blackmail operations of Israel, whether by Netanyahu or anybody else. But this is going back decades and decades now, we're talking about. All the way back to the presidency of Bill Clinton. Now, this is not to say that the Clintons don't have their own skeletons, if you will. They certainly do. And plenty of bodies buried. No pun intended. But there is a story that came out on Breaking Points via friend of the show, Ryan Grimm, that maybe you guys are aware of and maybe you're not. There has been talk for years that Monica Lewinsky was actually a Mossad asset, or perhaps even a Mossad agent, to blackmail the president. I don't really know where I stand on that. Asset, certainly possible. But here's what Ryan was able to uncover. And I think this information is very important.
A trip down memory lane.
This is crazy.
The 1990s, Benjamin Netanyahu, Bill Clinton, and Monica Lewinsky. Stick around for this one. So in a scandal that has been largely lost to contemporary memory, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was alleged to have blackmailed then-President Bill Clinton by revealing to him that Israel had collected tapes of phone sex calls between the 42nd president and White House intern Monica Lewinsky.
My first question to that is, how in the hell would Bibi Netanyahu get his hands on audio recordings between President Clinton and Monica Lewinsky? Who in the fuck is he? The Prime Minister of Israel has these recordings? The only way that that's possible is if there is a clandestine blackmail operation that the Israel lobby has been conducting on American politicians for generations. The President of the United States. Seems like a pretty serious issue, if you ask me. And that's why we say that Trump is compromised. Biden was compromised. Even Obama was compromised. It's one big clusterfuck in the worst way. And let's not forget about Bush either.
The story is worth revisiting amid allegations that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in a long-running Israeli blackmail operation of his own. So Clinton met with Netanyahu in the Oval Office in February 1997. Subsequently, according to testimony Lewinsky gave to the special counsel's office, Clinton's secretary Betty Curry reached out to Lewinsky to invite her to an Oval Office meeting, telling her Clinton, quote, had something important to tell her, unquote. It would turn out to be their final sexual encounter. But Clinton also used the opportunity to tell her that a, quote, foreign embassy had tapped his phone and recorded their conversation, Lewinsky said.
I did say that to her, and I guess she kept it a secret for a little while. How in the hell was Israel able to tap his phone? Who gave them access to do that? It certainly wasn't Clinton. See how deep the rabbit hole goes on Israel, ladies and gentlemen? Pretty fucking deep. And it's been this way for a very long time.
Clinton did not specify which embassy, though the meeting with Lewinsky came the month after his meeting with Netanyahu. The special prosecutor's report was far more concerned with Lewinsky's claim of the sexual encounter that day because it contradicted Clinton's claim that they had had only one encounter that year, than they were with the fact that a foreign government was spying on the president and letting him know about it. The prosecutor was also interested in Clinton's response, namely that he proposed cover stories. These are cover stories that the two could employ if they were confronted with the tapes. Clinton suggested the pair say they knew they were under surveillance and the phone sex was a, quote, put on for whoever was listening. That's an awfully flimsy idea, but look, he was guilty. The man did not have much to work with. Now in April, Netanyahu and Clinton met again for a, quote, private visit. On a Saturday then in May 1997, Clinton again had Curry invite Lewinsky to the White House. During that visit, he broke up with her, Lewinsky testified. The next fall, so this is fall of 1998, Clinton hosted Netanyahu and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat for a summit at Wye River, Maryland. Toward the end of the summit, at 7 a.m., after a long night of final negotiations and handshakes, Netanyahu approached Clinton privately to demand the release of convicted Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard.
Okay. So when you see presidents give pardons to highly questionable people on their way out the door, here's an example of what the Israel lobby does to get what they want. Now, I'm not saying every single pardon that comes down the pike is by Israel's demand, but this is a great example of just that. And Bill Clinton was notorious for several of his pardons being absolutely mind-blowing.
A cause célèbre of the Israeli far right. That's according to reporting at the time from the New York Times. Now, Netanyahu brought up the sex tapes in the context of the Pollard demand, according to subsequent reporting by Washington Examiner editor Daniel Harper in his book, Clinton, Inc., The Audacious Rebuilding of a Political Machine. He writes, quote, not wanting to directly threaten the powerful American president, a crucial Israeli ally, Clinton was told that the Israeli government had thrown the tapes away, but the very mention of them was enough to constitute a form of blackmail.
Read that again, guys. Not wanting to directly threaten the powerful American president, a crucial Israeli ally, Clinton was told that the Israeli government had thrown the tapes away, but the very mention of them is enough to constitute blackmail, and that is correct. It'd be a shame if those tapes mysteriously reappeared out of nowhere. and we were to play them for the American public, it'd be a shame if those freak-off parties that you have on Star Island in Miami were to come to light, Mr. Diddy. It'd be a shame, Hillary Clinton, if the truth about what really happened in Libya came to light. Now, wouldn't that? It'd be a shame, Mr. President, the Donald, if it were to come to light what you and Epstein had been doing for many years. This is how it's done. Until it isn't. And so that, in many ways, is just one little example of how this operation works. And this is just one person. Much like Bernie Madoff, as I pointed out, you think he's the only person committing fraud? This is why everybody talks about all of the politicians in the federal government that commit insider trading. It's not one person. It's an infestation of our elected officials that break the law. One nation under blackmail, as Whitney Webb so eloquently puts it.
Ally, Clinton was told that the Israeli government had thrown the tapes away, but the very mention of them was enough to constitute a form of blackmail, Halpern reported. The talks almost broke down as CIA Chief George Tenet told Clinton he would resign on the spot if Clinton agreed to the terms. So instead, Clinton agreed to, quote, review Pollard's case. He did not release him. Pollard was eventually freed in 2015 under the Obama administration. Now, on the last day of his first term, Trump pardoned Pollard's handler. Back in Israel, Pollard is now an outspoken supporter of extremist National Security Minister Ben-Gvir.
Because of course he looks like that. Move Gaza's Arabs to Ireland. You wouldn't fuck with the Irish under any circumstances, you fat balloon. Former U.S. Jewish spy Pollard. Who is this guy spying for? And who the hell would give him any information? Looks like Randy Fine's long-lost cousin.
Itamar Ben-Gvir, and is called for the full ethnic cleansing of Gaza. I don't know, Emily, what do you think? What did Netanyahu tell Bill Clinton?
I'm so curious.
Is there another foreign embassy that this could be?
Excellent. And thank you for Dropsite for providing the clip. Couldn't have said it better. I mean, what else is there to say? It is painfully obvious what's going on here. And we have to recognize that all of these operations are to the detriment of our country's ability to answer to the will of the people. Now, I am not here to tell you that Israel is the end-all be-all for everything that's wrong with this country. And as Jen has pointed out many a times before, we are Israel and vice versa. But there is no question that the power of this lobby is real, and they will go to great lengths, so much so that they basically get the leaders of the free world in line. So when they say that you're not really in charge, they mean that. And as much as people, especially people who identify as MAGA, have tried to create this idea in their mind that somehow Trump really is in control, he isn't. You don't take $100 million from Miriam Adelson and then claim to be in control. You're just not. And that's why, in light of everything that's happening right now, the West Bank is being annexed. Before we jump into our next story, we do want to acknowledge everyone that is here this evening. We really appreciate you all as always. And remember, you could go to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but mighty and growing channel. We are over 47,400 subscribers now, so we're still on a steady upward trajectory, which is great. And if you guys are so inclined, any and all contributions would be tremendously appreciated. It allows us to continue to get these stories out. And of course, doing Pontificating with Pete twice a month. Next Saturday, Jen will be back. We will do our bi-weekly call-in segment. So I hope you guys will definitely crank those phones and give us a ring and let us know what's on your mind. I think those are infinitely important. In the meantime, do want to give a quick acknowledgement to our early super chatters. JM, thank you so much for the $2. Obviously, very much appreciated. And S. Kolachuk, great to see you. Thank you for the 5 Canadian A. Wave upon wave of demented Avengers march cheerfully out of obscurity into the dream. Well, I could pretend that I know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to. So if you would like to explain in the chat exactly what that means, I certainly would be appreciative of just that. Your guess is as good as mine. Or if anybody in the chat knows what this reference is, I would certainly appreciate any assistance if it could all be provided. And of course, one of our most amazing supporters of our channel, JG1982, gifting 5 revolutionary change memberships. Colin, are we ever going to be able to fix that label? I hope we can. And obviously, if you are so inclined again, you can make a contribution through Cash App. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but if that is a place that you would like to go, you can go to, I think we're going to have to change that name. That's another one. Right now, the last remnants of our old guard, but if you do choose to, you can go to Cash App, $GenChange. That can still be accessed. Interesting. Okay. So apparently it shows up normal. It's only on StreamYard from where I sit that it's showing up that way. So interesting. I did not know that, but now I understand. I was blind and now I can see. So when we talk about the fact that Trump is compromised, we mean it. And Trump is compromised in such a way that he was exposed in the most brutal form possible on South Park a couple of nights ago. Now, I have always been a South Park fan. I had to do this segment tonight because Jen cannot stand South Park, and that's okay. It's not for everybody. But I think they did a great job. I think the way that it was handled was done well. And I also believe that there should come as no surprise that Trump's response to this was obviously not positive. In fact, they hated it over at the White House. But here we go. This is a handful of clips that'll give you an idea of what this is all about.
Stupid idiots think they can mess with me.
Colin, is there a reason why the clips, the visual just seems to be coming in like really distorted? Is there a reason for that? Am I missing something?
For that one, it might be just the way, just how downloading sometimes works off, if that was Twitter or what have you. The other ones I think are better.
Okay, so we'll start with those instead. See how that goes. So here we go.
Hey, what the f is this, better?
This is the painting you asked for, sir.
Why is my dick so small?
But that's the size it is in the photo.
Get this guy out of here! I'm gonna sue you! I'm gonna sue both of you! Nobody makes fun of me and gets away with it! Hey, Satan!
I don't want to right now.
What? Hey, relax! Come on, Satan, I've been working hard all day!
You haven't been working, you've been doing your stupid memes and just f***ing around.
Come here again. Come on, Satan. You know you can't resist this.
I don't know, guys. Can you resist that? They will delete the whole video? Why is that? Oh, am I going to get flagged or something for showing this? Maybe I will. But it's still funny.
I can't even see anything, it's so small.
Hey, I'll f***ing sue you!
God, f*** you!
Ah, come on, Satan. Don't be like that. You know.
All right. Well, why is everybody else able to do it, but I'm not? I guess I'm just going to have to. Well, I have to like stop it and go, stop and go, stop and go. Is that what I have to do, Colin?
Yeah, that's what you have to do. But ultimately, yeah, it comes down to how anal the company is.
Well, considering all that's going on right now, they probably will. But hey, you know what? That's the risk you take, I guess. Do you hear what they're singing? We're bringing back Christ. I like going right for the throat, if you will. This idea that Trump was elected to be a representative for there's money in Christ. Oh, is there ever? There is a lot. And yeah, Trump was not too happy about this, obviously. But I think it just satirically really kind of did this, right? That he brought this on himself, especially with the whole Paramount lawsuit and the merger they're attempting right now. Don't get me started on Stephen Colbert, because I really have no sympathy for that Zio. As far as I'm concerned, there are a lot of corporate media hosts, if you will, shows that are kept on the air, and they're not profitable. In fact, they lose money. That doesn't mean that there isn't a point where they could just be fired at will. And you could say the reason he was fired is because he was questioning the merger. It doesn't matter. He's a sleazebag. He's not funny. And all I need to show you guys is the interview he did with Zohran to show you that there isn't anything redeemable about a guy who sold out. So he lost his job. That's it. Christ does make the money. There's no two ways about it. Come on, guys, let's go and have a good time. I'm going to sue you. But I'm totally going to sue you for doing this. And you playing this on your show, you're going to be in big trouble. Really big trouble.
Mr. President, a lot of your supporters are starting to turn against you.
Hey, tell them to take a rest.
Sir, can you please talk to them? They're really riled up.
All right, give me that. Hey, relax, guy.
Yeah, hi. What do you think you're doing? Our children are being told that they have to sit with Jesus at lunchtime?
Now, let's just take a moment to acknowledge the images on the wall. I guess Trump is raw dogging a sheep. That looks like some type of jet that's being taken off, flown in the air. I think there's a couple of more.
Listen, buddy, you just need to relax.
Okay, so there really is this unhealthy obsession with trying to show Trump's gut and wiener. This just seems to be, I mean, I understand why they're doing it. I also think that there was a message I was put out the other day that I do not believe was from Trump, but I thought was a pretty good idea. Basically saying how there was a really great episode. They did a really great job. South Park wasn't on TV for several years and they needed somebody to bring them back. And I'm back now and the show's doing great. Isn't that great? Really great. Totally. And if that's true, I think that is pretty damn funny. You see, if Trump was smart, that's how he would handle it. He would troll them right back.
this protesting makes me look bad. Just take a rest.
Well, no, we're not going to give it a rest. All the people here in South Park want some goddamn answers.
All right, then I'm gonna sue your whole town. You got that?
They really had a lot of fun capturing him and his facial expressions. This, of course, the shot that I've frozen right here is his mug shot. But yeah, they really the satire is well done, but it's not over yet.
Stupid idiots think they can mess with me, huh?
Just the fact that you've got Andrew Jackson. It's the little things that you notice. If you pay attention, there's really good commentary that doesn't even need description. You just get it. You know what they're trying to say.
I'm not in the mood right now. Another random bitch commented on my Instagram that you're on the Epstein list.
Well, if you continue to play hide and seek with the Epstein list, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to be in a lot of trouble. And this is the treatment you're going to get. And if there's one thing I am very confident in saying, if South Park is on the air next week, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep going at him. And they're going to keep talking about this. And that's what makes them great. That's what makes Matt and Trey great. They have always, the only time that there was really a threat to them was they were told not to show an actual image of the Prophet Muhammad. That was a whole load of controversy. But there were other moments throughout the show's history. Obviously, if you remember when Trapped in the Closet came out, Tom Cruise made a big stink about promoting Mission Impossible 3 because Viacom had owned the rights to the film as well as owning South Park at the time. And so as a result, he was able to throw his weight around. But for the most part, people get a kick out of it. I thought the Russell Crowe episode from years ago was extremely well done. And Russell Crowe acknowledged that it was good satire. I thought when they went after Kanye West, that was exceptionally well done. Now, I don't know if he liked it, but I know I did. And I would imagine that anyone in our audience that has been watching it probably liked it as well. But that's the thing about satire. And there's a big difference between the way that Saturday Night Live, for example, went about satirizing the president and the way that they're doing it here. This is real satire. And it's edgy satire. It's dangerous satire. And that's what makes it great.
The Epstein list? Are we still talking about that?
Well, are you on the list or not? It's weird that whenever it comes up, you just tell everyone to relax.
I'm not telling everyone to relax. Relax, guy.
No, I need counseling.
I need counseling. I mean, that's funny. The images are too much, but as I said, it was well done. And to make him like a Canadian with the head popping off every time he talks, yeah, that's good.
You remind me more and more of this other guy I used to date. Like, a lot. Like, you guys are exactly alike.
I love you.
If you haven't seen the episode, it is on. You can find it on X. It's out there. You can see the entire episode. It's a little over 20 minutes. There are a couple of other stories thrown in, like the Cartman story. But it is a really, really funny episode. And there's other parts of it that are good. He gets into it with the Canadian Prime Minister, all of it. It's like I said, it's good stuff. kudos to Trey and Matt. As I said, I've been a South Park fan for many years. The losing edge, God, just that. There's so much good that this show has done. The satire is just great. And so if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend you do. And if South Park is still on the air next week, they're going to be just as bold, and they're going to be absolutely ruthless with the subject matter. The biggest reason they've been able to do this is because they have just inked a brand new contract with Paramount for apparently $1.5 billion. And there is probably a massive clause in their contract that if they were to be removed from TV, that their buyout would be substantial, like ungodly substantial, probably $1 billion. And so they waited until that contract was signed, and then they aired the episode. And so now they have basically put Paramount in a very tough spot. What do we do? What if the president says, I'm totally going to sue your ass. What are you going to do about it? Well, Trump will only be president for so long. South Park lives on, hopefully for a long time. And that was fun. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Because Lord knows we need to laugh. In the world that we're living in today, I would agree. Yeah, South Park is definitely up there with the best satire that you're going to find. And I think right now, in terms of what is going to happen, well, David, it's still a little early. We don't know for certain what is going to happen. Okay, so there you go. The deal did, in fact, What's This Nonsense says the deal did go through, and they are no longer Paramount. They are now Skydance. So, okay. So the merger happened, and now we will see exactly what this is going to evolve into as far as whether or not Trump is going to try to go after South Park. I think it will be a failed exercise, to be honest. I think that the ratings for South Park are going to be through the roof. Hey, man, release the Epstein files, you know? I mean, at what point do you just continue to hide and think that this story is just going to go away? It's not going to go away. In fact, it's going to get so much worse. It's going to get a lot worse. It's going to hamstring people. It will. I do think that people are going to try to get away from Trump sooner rather than later. And I believe that the reason it's going to get worse for him and it's going to get worse for just politics in general is because people truly are seeking a new path. And one of those paths that we seek is going to be as far away from the Israel lobby as we can possibly get. I'm going to wait until Monday with Jen to talk about the Handala, but obviously we send our best to Chris Smalls, Jacob Berger, and anybody else that was on the latest rendition of the Freedom Flotilla. But Israel is collapsing under its own weight. And therein lies how many more of these so-called influencers or commentators are we going to listen to before we realize that there is no compromise, there is no, well, can we have a rational conversation? We can't. And even though Anna Kasparian is somebody who Jen and I both do not think highly of, she is also somebody who has been spot on when it comes to Israel-Palestine, to her credit. And so she had it out with this guy whose actual name is Shabbos, if you can believe that. Shabbos Kestenbaum, I think is his name. And this was on Piers Morgan the other day. I believe that we're all Anna Kasparian with the way she handled this Zion Nazi.
as my co-panelists have suggested, that the Palestinian people are facing a genocide, if you truly believe that they're experiencing a discriminate bombardment, then you would do everything in your power to ensure that the innocent civilian population are safely evacuated temporarily so that
the innocent civilian population is evacuated. That's your solution. Because you believe that that is land that was given to you by God. Am I right? Shabbos? I mean, how could you not be intimidated by a guy like that? Doesn't he just scare the shit out of you? That you would just do whatever the fuck he says? Now that is one alpha male, if there ever was. Did you hear how masculine his voice was too? Got me all hot and bothered.
Israel can kill the terrorists who have embedded themselves in civilian populations, like schools, like hospitals, like nursing homes. The problem is every time Israel or Western countries suggest doing that, suggest moving a refugee population the same way we have moved any refugee population, it's called ethnic cleansing. So then the alternative, okay, but then you would have civilians living in a dense urban environment where they are exposed to warfare. And
he's just copying Ben Shapiro. They're all the same. These beta male cucks.
then they die because that happens as a consequence of starting a war you have no hope of losing. So it's sort of a catch-22. Either we can safely evacuate them to Egypt, which, by the way, also shares a border with Gaza.
Again, the way they talk about moving people because they think it's their right to that land is absolutely insane. And if that's not enough, this guy thinks that he can play God. He again reminds me of that peckerhead down in Miami that I want to pound into the ground with every powerful fist that I can swing. That's how I feel. I do have violence in my blood, and I have it for Zionists in a big way. And I know I'm not the only one.
And has zero interest in taking the Palestinian population. Or we can say, well, if you're not willing to safely evacuate them into humanitarian corridors, then you are exposing them to danger in warfare. But it seems like my co-panelists are suggesting that is preferable. That, to me, is something I cannot understand. That is not rational. That is not liberal. That is not justified. We should safely evacuate civilians, take out Hamas and the dictatorial tyrannical regime. And then once the war is finished, you can safely repopulate Gaza with the same civilian population and build Gaza into what it was meant to be when Israel left Gaza in 2005, which again,
what the fuck is he saying? And who, honestly, I want to know who listens to him and thinks, yeah, this is a great influencer. This is a great commentator. I so need to listen to what this guy has to say. Maybe it's like Jen says, these guys are just artificially boosted. It must be.
And to your point of ethnic cleansing, Israel is doing a pretty shitty job of ethnic cleansing when A, there are more Gazans post-October 7th alive than there were pre-October 7th, and B, Israel has given up Gaza in 2005. They gave up the Sinai Peninsula in 1979. They have consistently given up land in the name of peace. You know how much land the other Arab nations have given up? Zero, because their starting position from 1948 was the eradication of the Jew from the river to the sea. And that's what the root of this conflict is all about, is the inability of the Palestinian leadership to recognize the fruitfulness of coexistence and peace. I believe in coexistence and peace. I believe the war should end. No, who doesn't?
Okay. Are you gonna let him filibuster? All right, final word.
This to me is this is a person who is psychopath, is completely devoid of any real humanity. It just doesn't exist. Now, you could say that it's strictly against the Palestinian people, but that's not what it is. The Palestinians are the ones that are in the way. The ultimate goal is the Greater Israel Project, which I think we all agree is what they're trying to do. They would feel the same way about Syrians, would feel the same way about the Egyptians, feel the same way about the Jordanians, they would feel the same way about the Iraqis, and they would certainly feel the same way about the Iranians. That's all. Palestinians are just in the way. And the only reason, as we've mentioned before, that they act tough is because they're dealing with mostly women and children, and they're dealing with unarmed civilians. They're not dealing with a standing army, with real weaponry. We saw what happened when they tried that shit with Iran. It lasted only a week. And they're like, yeah, this isn't a good idea. Guess we'll go in another direction. Let's get back to killing innocent people. That's more fun. Less likely for us to get killed. But I want them all. Honestly, I want to take them all. I have no sympathy whatsoever for guys like Shabbos. And I'm sure that's not even his real name. He, as much as anybody, is a clone, if you will, of Ben Shapiro. Much like that Jubilee clip that we showed you guys with Mehdi Hassan. These guys learn from them, and then they copy it and rebrand it and do it all over again. Colin, please check your phone. There is no question that this guy speaks for the Zionist movement in so many ways. Like he just does. And I know there's a lot of people who want to believe in their own mind that it's not that bad, but it is. Jen always says that the Zionist project needs to be lanced off like a boil, and I am of the mind that that's probably what needs to happen, because there is nothing redeemable about these people. Even if a lot of this is just an act, which a lot of it is for several of them, because it pays well. But the Zionist ideology overall is a death cult. And they are going to get a lot of innocent people dead. Yeah, the number is at approximately 434,000. So did Jen. People know tons of these Zion Nazis. And I've always found it just so telling that their attitude and their disposition is not just one that lacks humanity, but it's always coming from the most emasculated of men. Now, don't get me wrong, the women are completely psychotic as well. But with the men, it's very telling. And so to her credit, Anna Kasparian basically said exactly what we were all thinking when this guy was spewing this genocidal bullshit.
They have provided more aid into Gaza post-October 7th than pre-October 7th is something I'm very proud of. And if you believe that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is not doing enough...
The fact that they shoot at people as they're waiting in line for humanitarian aid. Dozens of people get shot and killed literally every single day. Every single day as they're waiting for food. No, I'm not going to let you filibuster, bitch. I'm not going to let you filibuster. I'm not going to let you filibuster. You guys are totally okay with IDF soldiers shooting and killing desperate people waiting for humanitarian aid. You're okay with that. I find it so unbelievably evil. Unbelievably evil. It shocks my conscience and my soul that people as evil as this exist in this world. Okay? Watching these images, looking at these videos, seeing all these kids desperate, hungry, parentless, trapped in Gaza. And you're sitting here and you're defending it. I can't stand it. I can't listen to it. The filibustering is unbearable. It's unbearable.
And what
it's
I tell you what,
I can't take it. How can you watch all those kids die?
Okay,
and be
let me bring
with it?
Gideon back in here.
Will you call on Hamas right now to surrender and release the hostages? Do it. Do it right now. Say.
Israel is currently holding as much as 10,000 Palestinian hostages. The number is probably a lot larger than that. And this fuckhead, which Anna called a bitch, and that's what he is, a bitch, like Io Jacobi. They're all a bunch of bitches, like Evan Ross is a bitch, and Jared Mauskowitz is a bitch. They're all tough with people that can't defend themselves. But when it's people that can, they shrivel up like a Donald Trump ding-a-ling.
I called out Hamas. I called out Hamas from the very beginning. I've got no love for Hamas. It's a terrorist organization. What they did was wrong. I cried over the atrocities that they engaged in on October 7th. But you know what's so disgusting? You want to? Yes, I did. You should watch The Young Turks. That's where you'll see exactly what I had to say about Hamas after October 7th. I even trashed elements of the left who refused to criticize Hamas for what they did. Okay, so you don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to that issue.
Okay, you made that
But
clear.
you can't on one hand,
All right.
you can't on one hand talk about the injustice of what Hamas did and then turn around and say it's okay if Israel does it times 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah. That cuts deep. And that's why, even though I have very strong disagreements with Anna, that's the type of righteous anger that needs to be displayed. It is very tough. I don't know what's more sad. Knowing what's happening to these kids, are knowing that there are people out there like Shabbos that are just completely inhuman, sadistic, despicable, useless, pathetic excuses. I won't even call them human because I don't acknowledge them as such. Like I said, the tide is turning in a big way, and we know it. Because when Joe Scarborough and MSDNC and Amy Klobuchar are coming out and saying that this is a genocide, that's bad for the Israel lobby and the establishment, because they know that their position is untenable. They cannot keep this up. They're going to try. But that's, in many ways, how this will eventually end. It ends because it's not good for business. I hate that's the reason. But whatever gets the job done, just get it done. And we're going to deal with the Shabboses of the world. They're going to get theirs. It's going to happen. I want people to maintain whatever level of positivity they can. Hillary Clinton was one of the biggest scumbag motherfuckers out there, chastising people about their support for the Palestinian people. And how dare you not support Israel? But now this fuckhead, who will never go away until she's dead, and even then you'll still hear from her from beyond the grave, wants you to know that she deeply is concerned about the starvation that's going on in Gaza right now. Israel says it will open aid corridors as outrage grows over starvation in Gaza. You mean to tell me that they could have been dropping food from the air from the very beginning, and now they're doing this? It doesn't matter that they're doing it now. You know why it doesn't matter? Because they've entered what's known as the fifth stage of starvation, which means the point of no return, which means that you have been starved so badly that you eat your insides. That's what happens. There is no coming back from this. Hundreds of thousands of more Palestinians will be dead, and it will be imminent. This is hell on earth. And then you get cocksuckers like Brett Stevens writing opinion pieces for the New York Times, still saying, no, this is not a genocide. You got Smotrich coming out and saying 2 million dead Palestinians is probably justified if the world would let us do it. The second I saw Scarborough and Klobuchar start talking about the starvation genocide, that's when I knew that things were about to get really fucking bad. Because now there is going to be no whitewashing of any of this shit. This is going to get so much worse, you can't even begin to comprehend it. And yet, the Zion-Nazis are walking around acting like this isn't a big deal. We still have plans. There are things that we have to accomplish. I see anybody, and I mean anybody, defending Israel. I mean, I felt this way since the jump. You know, the thing about our channel is that we actually have receipts. Within 3 days of October 7th, Jen put out a message saying exactly what was going to happen and how we were on the side of the Palestinians. Full stop. To think that we are just over 2 months away, 2 fucking months away from this being 2 years. The systemic extermination of the Palestinian people by our so-called greatest ally is almost done. And we're just going to pretend like this isn't a big deal, that we're just going to go back to business as usual. By the way, I am convinced beyond any doubt that the people who are like, you know, like the Brianna Woos of the world, there's only 2 possibilities that I see on social media. 1, they're fake. 2, they're paid. It's one or the other, and that's it. If they're defending this shit. You have no idea how much blood rage I have. How many people I want to hurt. Evan Ross is only one of them. We have to collaborate together. We as a people must work together to break the stranglehold that is the Israel lobby. Every time we go live, every time we get a new subscriber, every time we get a new supporter, I hope our message is crystal clear. Who we are, what we're trying to accomplish, and what it's going to take to get there. Colin, could you scroll down, please? Starvation crisis. Facing growing international condemnation over Palestinians starving to death in Gaza, Israel's military says it will begin a humanitarian pause in part of the enclave and open corridors for UN convoys. You mean you're not going to shoot them on sight like you've been doing the whole time by giving them contaminated food? To make aid deliveries on Sunday. It's Sunday right now in the Middle East. Well, let's see what they're doing. I'm not going to hold my breath. Medical workers describe dire conditions on the ground. with hospitals overflowing with malnourished patients. You know why? Because you blew up all of their fucking hospitals! Controversial aid drops. Israel has also begun making airdrops into Gaza. You mean something they could have been doing from the very beginning? I thought it was Hamas and they couldn't get in there. After saying earlier this week that it would allow foreign nations to do so, the method has been sharply criticized by humanitarian groups as expensive, inefficient, and dangerous for those on the ground. Like they give a fuck about what happens to the people on the ground. Protests in Israel. As global pressures mount, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Milkowski, also faces anti-war protests at home. Families held a rally Saturday condemning the government's failure to secure the release of Israeli hostages. Because that's what still matters. You know, we've talked at great length about the bullshit that is the war in Ukraine and how everything was always about the natural resources in Western Ukraine that we want to control and engulf Ukraine into NATO so we can take control of those $8 trillion with a T natural resources. And Russia said no. Knew it from day one what the fuck it was all about. How in the fuck do you not see what this shit is in Gaza and what it was from the beginning? And I will say it again, and I will continue to say it until I can't speak. There is $500 billion worth of natural gas under Gaza soil. And we want it, and we agree to allow Israel to conduct a genocide to get all the people out of there. Get the natural gas and get trillions in profits in real estate redevelopment. Genociding an entire 2 million plus society to meet that end. It can't be more clear. And now all of a sudden people want to come around and act like they give a fuck. They're only coming around to give a fuck because it's not good politically anymore. Not that it ever really was good. It was just something that they could manage. Now they can't manage it anymore. And the Democrats know they have no choice because they are in the worst possible position this party has ever been in. It's a dead party. It's basically on its way out. That's how bad it is. So they're going to try anything. They're not going to give up that corporate cash. That's not happening. But they are so desperate to try to get any type of momentum. They're now asking for the Epstein files to be released. They are now saying that they are starving the Palestinians in Gaza. And the only reason they're doing it is because it's not good politically to not do it. So now they are. It won't last. It never does. But we, the people, need to put our differences aside and recognize that this is the issue of our time. There is going to be a lot of revisionist history. It's already starting. There are people who are going to claim, like Joe fucking Scarborough, that they were on board with the Palestinian people. No, you weren't. You were on board with the Democratic Party. That's what you were on board with. And now that they're not in power, and now that they're getting destroyed, now it's safer. Maybe we'll pretend like we care. Nope. Too late. The U.S. and Israel recalled their ceasefire negotiations this week, blaming Hamas for the diplomatic breakdown. Still going with that talking point. Still expecting people to buy it. I wonder who actually bought it from the beginning. But then again, I live in a very black and white existence. And I understand that some people just simply can't see the forest through the trees. We all have blood on our hands. All of us. Have I done enough? No. Nobody has. Because it's still going on. Scroll down, Colin, please. Israel says it will allow more aid to flow into Gaza as condemnation grows. Here's what to know. The IDF has begun making controversial airdrops into Gaza, and the military says it will implement humanitarian pauses. Yeah, we get all that bullshit. They're starving to death. And many, many more people are going to be dead. And it kills me to have to say. These were innocent children. These are innocent people. But because they do not capitulate to the West, they are casualties of genocide. Not casualties of war. This is not a war. This is a genocide. This is a mass murder extermination of innocent people for money and power. And that's pretty much our history of the worst kind. The audacity of CNN to quote them saying that the hospitals are overflowed without acknowledging all of the hospitals that have been destroyed. Fuck them too. Could have easily pointed that out, but why bother? What, you think people can't see through your bullshit too? I hope that every single one of you, and I mean this, I hope that every single one of you, especially the ones who knew what was going on from the beginning and lied about it for their own career, I hope you have uncontrollable nightmares and anxiety for the rest of your natural life that will eventually take you out of this world. You should never have a moment's peace ever again. And the same is true for every knick-knack moron that waves the Ukraine flag too. All of you. You're all a bunch of fucking dupes. And in this age of technology, you're not aware of what's really going on, and you never question what's really going on. Ever. After 2 fucking years. And you still want to play dumb. This is how you know capitalism is going to collapse. Like it's going to happen. Because in the end, it's all about protecting your bottom line. The system's unsustainable. And I know this. And I'm a participant in capitalism. I'm in commercial real estate. I know this. And I try to share this with people that are very wealthy, that think it can't touch them. Trust me when I tell you, it can touch them. We can all be on the chopping block. They have been able to blackmail presidents. The so-called leaders of the free world. And you can say that the Mossad and the CIA are one and the same. And maybe they are. But the more we recognize just how broken our system truly is, the faster we will get to a consensus that change is necessary. And that, to me, is how we will get there. Eventually, it just boils over to the point where you cannot and will not make this tenable for anybody to pretend like it's not happening. And you make it untenable for the people that still want to defend it. There is an elected official in South Florida who, on a personal level, I happen to like. He's from the same part of the country as me. We've gotten along. He supported Jen, not publicly outright, but in private, came to her and told her that he supported her. And that was nice of him to do that. But he has basically been defending Israel the entire time. And the only reason I believe he's been doing that is because it's good for him politically, because the area that he represents has a heavy Jewish population that is Zionist. And I would tell him that he's a coward. If your position is so damn important that you give up your humanity as a result, then what the fuck do you have? You may not agree with what's going on, but you're willing to look the other way because for your political career, it's beneficial. And it's not even that high up on the totem pole. If there is a day of judgment, Colin, please check your phone. If there is a day of judgment, it's coming for many people for what they've done here. I wish I could say we're going to close this evening on a positive note, but we're not. I'm going to read this post that I put out right before we went live. And I'm going to read it to you. And I'm going to show you an image that is not going to make you comfortable. But that's okay, because we all need to bear witness, as Jen says. There's a reason AIPAC-owned Dems like Amy Klobuchar are now calling for an end to Israel's systemic starvation of the Palestinians in Gaza. It's reached an irreversible tipping point in which hundreds of thousands will be dead soon. Israel is now airdropping food directly into Gaza, but it is too late. Now the shift begins because it is no longer politically tenable to sweep this genocide under the rug. Make no mistake, Amy Klobuchar is one of many complicit in crimes against humanity. They will never be able to wipe the children's blood off of their Israel lobby-stained hands. For this reason alone, we must bear witness. There's a reason AIPAC-owned Dems like Klobuchar are now speaking out. And that's the reason. Colin, can you scroll to the picture, please? Scroll a little further, please. I suppose they think this is AI-generated shit, right? Like this isn't real. Like this isn't a starved child that is going to die of malnutrition. That's what's going to happen. I actually just caught something and just realized what I did wrong. But I'll update it. I want this image to sear into your brain and that you never forget it. I want everyone to have to look at it and suffer as I am, and everyone else should. So when people ask, why do you give a shit so much about Gaza? This is why. I never liked Israelis, and now I will spit on them if I have to, and beat them to a bloody pulp. And they're all okay with this. I am, as should a lot of you all be, incensed, sick, and absolutely horrified by what has happened. And this is just another example of how we all bear witness to what is going on. I feel sadness, but rage. And I am not going to allow anyone to forget this. I post about this regularly on my social media. People know where I stand. I am not quiet. And I haven't been. But I'm at the point now where I am having a hard time not calling them out for being silent. People don't like controversy. I have accepted the fact that I am different than a lot of people and that I live my life differently than a lot of people. And that's okay. I don't expect everyone to be like me. It does take courage to say what needs to be said. We covered what happened at the London Opera House, as you guys saw. A young man who did not want to remain silent about what is going on, decided to display the Palestinian flag, and he lost his career. Like that. Now, maybe he will get picked up somewhere else, hopefully. But that's the risk that a lot of people take, especially with the anti-BDS laws that people like Wasserman Schultz have spent their career fighting for on Capitol Hill. So that if you ever speak out against Israel, you're out of a job. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, you can't pay the bills, can't breathe the air, can't drink the water, can't travel, you don't own anything. What future do you have? What do you have to lose? We all have an obligation to step up and do the right thing. So I implore all of you to follow our lead and join us and fight for a free Palestine. With that said, one more time, our great audience, make sure you go to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you could become a supporter of our small but mighty and still growing channel. I will do a quick check for all of you right now. As of this moment, we currently are sitting at 47,427 subscribers. So we're still climbing that ladder. And for those of you that are here, we thank you so very much. And we also have to acknowledge our additional super chatters. You guys are great and always appreciated. Piano Man, thank you so much for the $10 super sticker. Again, any contribution makes a tremendous difference and allows our channel to continue to grow. Mark J, thank you for the $2. Thank you for your outrage, Pete. Well, I'm speaking on behalf of those that can't speak. Josie Justice, thank you so much for the $10. Free Palestine indeed. Easiest statement to submit. Progressive Lefty, thank you for the $6.99 Canadian A. My girlfriend's parents are huge Christian Zionists. They would freak if they saw the flag in my front yard. I avoid them for obvious reasons. Well, you know what? Maybe it isn't a good idea to avoid them. Maybe the key here is to actually confront them on their blasphemous beliefs. And it always amazes me when I hear Christians wax poetic about what their beliefs supposedly are, and yet they are as bigoted and hateful and resentful as anybody. Now, granted, it's primarily Protestants, not Catholics, that think like this, but there's plenty of Catholics too that are just complete and utter hypocrites. But then again, religion in general is hypocritical. And I have always found that those that practice Islam are the ones that are probably the most true to their beliefs in a positive way. At least that's been my personal experience. I don't know about you guys. But make no mistake, we all have an obligation. We all do. To make that change, to make that difference. As Michael Jackson says, I'm staring at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to make that change. So let's make that change. If there is somebody out there that you have contemplated saying something to about what's going on, even if you just wanted to get their opinion and say, man, you know, what's happening in Gaza is really terrible. Have you had any thoughts about that? Maybe some people are just kind of waiting to share those thoughts. Maybe they've been holding it in because they don't know who to talk to, because they're afraid of how they may be judged for having a humane attitude about it. There will be a lot of healing and a lot of emotional trauma that will set in when this finally ends. Israel's bombing churches now. So now the Christian Zionists are getting a little antsy in the pantsy. But at some point, we will have to break away from this. To have the courage to fight when it seems impossible to do it. And if you have to lose some friends and even family as a result of speaking up and out in support of the Palestinians, well, go ahead and do it. Because I've lost them. It's basically one family member that I can talk to. That's it. And I could not be happier knowing that I have a clear conscience. It's the only way to live. I hope we can all experience that. I hope you enjoyed the live stream tonight. I had been holding in a lot of that rage for a little while. For the life of me, I don't know how anyone can sit idly by anymore. But as I've been saying, as you guys have been following our channel, whether as part of this incredible growth streak that we've been on over the past couple of months or prior to, I've been saying that they're going to get them all. They're going to probably kill all the Palestinians. What we must do is make sure that they do not die in vain. The deconstruction of the state of Israel is our life's work now. So let's make sure that we do our job until Palestine is free. Smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We'll see you Monday. Free Palestine.